Hello, all. Again, welcome to the Zander channel. Here I help people get out of their heads and establish and maintain our connection to our heart. Even if you're a masculine man, this is my path to happiness, joy, and love. I will also post on how to get out of depression, suicide, stress, anxiety, and other lower vibrational energies on your path to happiness, especially during times of true or fantasy crisis, such as the time of this video posting. I invite you to subscribe and join me in this journey towards peace, joy, and happiness. This video is 5 ways to make mindfulness more manly. Manly! Now, many more women than men enroll in mindfulness and compassion training courses. How exactly do we change that? This is an article by Kozo Hattori. The men are gone. That's what he realized in the last class of the Cultivating Compassion training course at Stanford University. He spent 9 weeks strengthening attention, building awareness of our bodies, learning to confront pain in ourselves and in others. Throughout the course, male students were dropping out like 12th seeded teams in the NCAA bracket tournament. This gender imbalance was not unique to Stanford CCT. 2/3 of the students at the Insight Meditation Center in Redwood City, California are female, according to the teacher Gil Frundizal, an ordained Soto Zen priest who is also a Theravada monk in Burma. Elliot Livingston, the director of programs at Spirit Rock Meditation Center, says that socio-demographics of Spirit Rock consist primarily of women. All of these programs integrate mindfulness meditation, the practice of focusing the attention on our thoughts and feelings without judging them. That doesn't really sound like much, huh? But study after study finds that practicing mindfulness can bring a host of physical, psychological, and social benefits. More recently, evaluations of programs like the CCT are finding that mindfulness is a very effective way to cultivate compassion, compassionate intentions, and behaviors. Is that something that boys or men need? Men tell you what's on their minds, but not what's in their heart. Right? That says Livingston, who has 40 years of psychotherapy, 20 years leading men's groups under his belt. Perhaps not coincidentally, boys and men commit the vast majority of violent acts, from domestic violence to murder. Many struggle with expressing empathy and compassion. Be a man, suck it up. Men don't cry. The problem does not seem to center on mindfulness. Men practice high levels of mindfulness in a variety of arenas in our society. At military boot camps and police academies, men learn to control their breathing and focus on target before firing a weapon. Sports are great training grounds for mindfulness. Basketball players who are taught to clear their mind by going through a routine when shooting from a free throw zone. Being in the zone is active meditation in its highest form. Notice, however, that in all of these mindfulness practices, compassion is removed from the equation. Focus is the key. These boys and men are being trained for a win or lose competition. Life or death when it comes to marksmanship, huh? It has been historically dangerous for a man to be vulnerable, says Elliot Livingston, who suggests that men's resistance to explore interior emotions like compassion is the result of hundreds of years of conditioning. I guess it's in our DNA, isn't it, boys? When some argue that this is a result of a biological predisposition, contemporary research in neuroplasticity by scientists like Richard Davidson at the University of Wisconsin at Madison Center for Investigating Healthy Minds finds that even short-term compassion meditation training, or 30 minutes a day for 8 weeks, alters brain activity in regions associated with positive emotional skills such as empathy. That is true for both men and women. Now, as Davison says, compassion is indeed an emotional skill that can be trained. We understand the benefits. The need is there. But how do we get men to participate in mindfulness and compassion training? Here are 5 ways to plant the seeds of compassion in boys and cultivate its growth in men. 1, considering the time frame, sadly, use pop culture to teach mindfulness to boys. When his wife and he tried to teach their sons how to meditate, they immediately sat down crisscross applesauce and closed their eyes. "What are you thinking about?" he asked his 5-year-old. "Inner peace," he replies. It turns out that he learned this technique from Po in the movie Kung Fu Panda. He wasn't surprised. One of the reasons he was attracted to meditation at an early age stems from his love from the Japanese anime Ikkyo-san, based on the historical Zen Buddhist monk. If every 8-year-old in the world is taught meditation, we will eliminate most violence from the world within 1 generation, says the Dalai Lama. Some might argue with that point, but given research showing how mindfulness meditation leads to greater compassion, perhaps portrayals of meditation in action belong on the Netflix queues for young children. Shows like Kung Fu Panda and Avatar, The Last Airbender, feature characters that gain power as well as peace of mind through meditation. Jedi Knights of Star Wars consistently preach mindfulness to each other, specifically as a way to foster compassion and restraint. Parents can watch these hugely popular movies and shows with their kids and discuss the real-world roots for these practices. Now that requires parental supervision and parental action in their child's lives. Before your child gets on the Xbox, don't buy him one. Have him do the meditations first. And then when you do get him an Xbox or something similar, do a family-oriented mindfulness meditation or 6. 2, give boys role models for mindfulness and compassion. I meditate every day. Sometimes I meditate in my son's bedroom, which gives them a sense of security. "Daddy, will you meditate in our room, please?" is a common bedtime request for his 3-year-old son. Their sons also practice Kristen Neff's self-compassion techniques daily. Whenever they say thank you, they put their heads on their hearts and bow deeply. His wife and he wants them to connect with what Bruce Lee calls the emotional content of their actions. Some parents at their son's kindergarten have noticed this pose of gratitude and taught their children this gesture. Although these actions seem trivial, research in neuroplasticity has shown how the consistent daily practice of any activity alters the brain structure of the practitioner. This is a matter of building habits, ones that will hopefully last a lifetime. And since we mentioned Bruce Lee also said, instead of giving your child a material item that will degrade and be destroyed or thrown in the trash. Give them a skill, give them knowledge, for they can take that to their grave and beyond. 3. Starts with boys in school. In a world where bullying, school shootings, sexual violence threaten all of our children, isn't it about time that compassion training became a part of the curriculum? Everywhere? The Oakland-based Mindful School programs training takes training straight to the kids. Co-founder and co-director Megan Cowan has shared a story about how a mindfulness training she led in an intercity school engendered compassion in the students for victims during a lockdown. Another program in Oakland, the Mind-Body Awareness Project, worked in juvenile halls, detention camps, and at-risk schools in California, serving young people with the histories of violence, substance abuse, and deep trauma, as Congressman Tim Ryan writes in Towards a More Mindful Nation. These programs are springing up all around the country, as Jill Sweat describes in Mindful Kids, Peaceful Schools. There's also Stressed Teens in Oakland, Breathe in Pennsylvania, Holistic Life Foundation in Baltimore, Inner Kids in Los Angeles, the Impact Foundation in Colorado, the Lineage Project in New York City, and many of these programs teach mindfulness to at-risk and incarcerated teenagers. Now, these are just most of them that come up on a search, but there are going to be plenty more, I hope and assume. Scientific evaluations of many of these programs are finding that they boost academic achievement and reduce behavioral problems, as Congressman Ryan writes. The people and many others all over America and the world are changing the way we approach chronic poverty and disconnection. These programs reveal to our children that a negative and dangerous life is not their only option. With mindfulness skills, they see that they have choices and their wherewithal to overcome the adversities in their lives. As these programs grow and lead deep systemic changes, our country will be a safer and healthier place because of it. 4. Meet men where they are. Rather than try to get a few good men to attend compassion training, why don't we find areas where men are a captive audience? Teach compassion there. Mindfulness meditation has already been incorporated into the United States military's Marine Corps at Quantico, Virginia. Soldiers are offered an 8-week mindfulness course in order to better deal with anxiety, stress, depression, insomnia. I cannot think of any aspect of my life that hasn't helped me with, reports Major Jeff Davis, United States Marine Corps. Mindfulness programs are also being worked in prisons. The Prison Ashram Project, started in 1975 by Bo and Sita Lozoff with Ram Dass, has led thousands of meditation workshops in more than 500 prisons. They also distribute free books and audio CDs to any inmate who requests them. Bo Lozoff's book, We Are All Doing Time, which covers yoga, pranayama, and Tonglen meditation, has become the convict's Bible. Bo, who passed away in late 2012, claims that every inmate in prison has one thing in common: a lack of compassion. Change really can happen, says Sita Lozoff, reflecting on 3 decades of teaching mindfulness practices to prison inmates. You become more peaceful. When asked about how to get more men who are not incarcerated to practice mindfulness and compassion training, Sita simply stated, change the role models to make compassion something attractive. Now, prisoners are such great role models for the rest of us, says Jenny Phillips, director of Dhamma Brothers, a documentary about the beneficial effects of Vipassana meditation practices administered in an overcrowded, understaffed, maximum security prison for men outside of Birmingham, Alabama. Dhamma Brothers suggests that the possibility of freedom from what which imprisons us all, writes Phillips in her director's statement. Phillips plans to rehabilitate free teaching curriculum for schools to teach the Dhamma Brothers. The curriculum includes not only guides to teach and to discuss the films in its companion book, but also experiential exercises on mindfulness, meditation, and cultivating loving kindness. Catching boys in the home, children at school, kids in front of the flat screen, and adults in institutions might just start a revolution that will end the gender imbalance of compassion. Five, make compassion training manlier. Finally, we may try to make mindfulness and compassion training more attractive to men. Part of the struggle is to simply encourage men to lead other men into mindfulness. Men tend to go deeper when they are not with women, claims Elliot Livingston. Gil Frontazal notes that when he taught a meditation retreat without a female co-teacher, his gender ratio sometimes reached 50-50. So maybe having male teachers leading the class for men only would probably help substantially. We can use examples of mindfulness in military, sports training, popular culture, in order to illustrate the concepts and build credibility among men. Livingston argues that compassion trainings need to be culturally relevant, deliverable by credible people who can relate to men, and learning accessible. Self-compassion pioneer Kristen Neff tells a story about how Chris Bremer, who co-developed Neff's self-compassion workshop with her, teaches a male version of her active self-soothing technique. While Neff gently puts her hands over her heart as an example of self-soothing, Chris Bremer adapts the hip-hop gesture of thumping a fist on one's chest over the heart. The trouble, of course, is that this type of gesture does not appeal to all men, and catering to male culture can be gimmicky or even a part of the problem if taken to extremities. We are just starting the discussion about how to involve men in mindfulness and compassion training, and we are still struggling to discover a language of the mind and the body that can lead them towards mindfulness. So, how can we cultivate more compassion in men, more mindfulness? That's, well, what this video is about. Please join the discussion if you have any comments or recommendations for this topic. And of course, smash that like button and subscribe below if you learned something, agreed, or found this interesting. Comment below to ask an educated question that you want the answer to. And if you love my sexy face, hit the notification bell for my next posting herein. And ladies, make sure that you get this to your men, or at least try some of these techniques on them or for them, or just yeah, just let them watch the video if they're interested. Because I'll tell you what, if you can open their hearts, get past their mind, that's what this is all about. A couple of other ideas. The future of medicine will be the medicine of frequencies. Albert Einstein. See my video on the Schumann resonance, please. 2. No disease, including cancer, can exist in an alkaline environment. Dr. Otto Warburg, 1931 Nobel Prize winner for cancer discovery. Go alkaline diet. Go vegan diet. Go raw food lifestyle. Go vegetarian. Slowly eliminate your necromancy in your food. How do you get life from death? That meat that you're eating is not alive, is it? It'd be a funny looking chicken. Anyways, much peace, love, and happiness to all of you. Have a good day. Have a happy day. I will see you on the next clip.